You all probably, you all might get a little pop-up on that screen. Okay, so now I won't get in trouble now. Excellent. So nice to meet you, Dr. Overstreet. I did not know you were the dean. So nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you through and your department through Katie. So and she's been great to work with. So right now, what I'm going to do is, and you all, I'm going to pull back up that original screen at the end so you have Katie's and my email addresses if you need to contact with us, if you need to make contact with us, and please feel free to. That's what that's not what Katie's there for. That's what I'm here for. Like Katie said, she'll contact me throughout the week and ask me questions. So that's the whole idea of this. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share my the actual program with you. So let me pull that up real quick so you can see that, because I think that's going to be the best way to go through this, is just to show you what the actual program looks like. And if at any time you can't see, just yell at me through the screen and say, "Hey Sam, I can't see what you're talking about," and I will definitely adjust that. So when you pull up my Accreditation Assistant, and like I said, I developed this as a way to take EPPs through a somewhat daunting CAEP review. And I can say that because I've been there, done that, got the merit badge, and it is, especially for small EPPs like Southern Adventist and some of your EPPs, where you don't have assessment teams who are there doing the work for you. I taught down the street from University of Memphis, and they had it was like a luxury to me. I was like, oh, you have people who do that all day long. They get paid to do that. Well, as you know, I mean, those of you who are in small EPPs, we advise, we teach, we do everything for the students. At one time, our EPP had 5 full-time faculty. Our adjuncts outnumbered us 3 to 1. So sometimes your EPPs are as small as 3, 4, 5 people, and CAEP is on top of what you are doing every single day. So, and sometimes you just don't have the time to get to it. It's just not something that you can always build into your day. So what I wound up doing was developing a guide out of course, the CAEP handbook. And just an FYI, went through a whole copyright and everything. So in case anybody's worried about that I used the exact language, no, I did not. I hired a lawyer, went through the whole copyright and everything. But of course, I do in all parts of this course reference the CAEP standards, because obviously I didn't make those up. That's where they came from. But what I did do was I developed a kind of a plan, if you will, based on my own experience in an EPP. And what I did was I broke up the 7 standards. Of course, the majority of you are only responsible for 5 of those standards, because your EPP is part of a greater university. I don't think I haven't seen everybody who's on here. I don't know if anybody is part of a freestanding EPP, but if you are, obviously you would have to do standards 6 and 7. And the way this is designed is I have a video at the beginning of each of the standards. And what I suggest to EPPs is that when you have the program, you go through the videos in each of the standards. This one is about organization. And that's one thing I've seen consulting, and either consulting with EPPs or being a part of an EPP myself, is the organization part is so key to putting CAEP together. You all, if you've been through CAEP before, know it's just not something you can put together 6 months before your self-study is due, because there's just so many moving pieces to this. So there is a part in here talking about organizing, making a plan, everything from knowing who's good at what standard, probably your chair probably needs to be over standard 5, the QAS, but then obviously your field experience director, or maybe you have a field experience adjunct, should be part of clinical partnerships. And standard 1 is all about your students. That needs to be the person who is really collecting data and is really liking crunching those numbers. So everything from organizing the standards to housing the data. Where are you housing the data? Some EPPs house data on flash drives. Some have LMS systems where they're housed within the university. But that's another important piece, is just knowing where you're housing all that information. I laugh going back 15 years ago to my first NCAEP visit, and everything we had was literally in a classroom in files, and it was under lock and key. So, but now we have the luxury of doing everything electronic. So after the organization, I go through obviously each standard. So standard 1, and I'm not going to go through every single word on each standard. Just so you do know, those of you who are on the call, when you access the course, you can see the understanding the standard, and one of the components in standard 1, you can see the actual information without purchasing the course. So if you ever wanted to go in there and play around with it and just see a couple of pieces, you are welcome to. So each standard, obviously divided by CAEP standards, 1 through 7. So standard 1, pedagogical knowledge. I have a video at the beginning just explaining the actual standard. As Katie knows, if you listen to my videos, I am a little snarky and I make jokes, but this has been there, done that. So I want you to be relaxed when you do this, because this is a kind of an uptight kind of process, right? Then I go through each of the components. So obviously standard 1 has those 4 components. And the standard is all about making sure that you're meeting those in-task standards. So definitely going through, pay attention to this. This is about your candidates. How does your EPP ensure? So I've taken a lot of the guiding questions, and I've made them all my own based on what I've seen myself and what I've seen other EPPs do. Was there a question? I'm sorry. And then after each component, so R1, the learner and learning, then I have suggestions for evidence. So what you can be collecting for evidence. And I go through each of those components like that. And then at the end of each, there is an Excel file that you can download. And what I've done with the Excel files under each standard is the Excel files mirror the questions and the suggestions for evidence, but you can use the Excel files as a Google Doc or however you want to use it to pass around to your faculty, to house the information, to put information in. I'm not sure if anyone from Bethel is here right now. I did something similar with them, not with CAEP, but with their comprehensive review, where I consulted with them, and what we did with the Google Docs is they would put information, I would read their information, and I would put information back in the Google Docs. Okay, you need to put this in here, you need to put that in there, and I'd put it in red, and once I saw it, I would change it to green. So the Google Docs are nice live working documents that you can use. So, but it goes through, clinical practice, recruitment, program impact. The QAS, so standard 5 was always my standard when I was at the EPP. I was chair for a number of years, but I wasn't always chair, but somehow or another, the QAS always got sent over to me. And I don't know if it was because I had done it before, or oddly, I've got to admit, I actually like standard 5. Everybody else can't stand it, and I actually really nerd out over standard 5. I think the quality assurance system is just, it is something that needs to be embraced, understanding that the QAS is the assessment of the assessment, and it's a really hard part, as you know, for EPPs to wrap their head around. But once it is there and once you have it working, it really and truly makes sense once you have it in place. And as you know, most AFIs land within standard 5 because everything else you talk about, every other assessment piece that you talk about in standards 1 through 4 falls into standard 5. So the odds are, if you're going to have an AFI, it is probably going to be somewhere in standard 5. So I spent a lot of time on standard 5, going through exactly what needs to go in there, and really understanding, having the EPPs understand what the assessment, what assessing your assessment actually means. So it's, I talk up in here about, don't just talk about what you did in standards 1 through 4. We're not talking about that in standard 5. You already talked about that in standard 4. We're talking about the measures chosen for the QAS here. So, I even put in here, here's a freebie for you. Starting with a visual, and that is something I knew really helped us. When I was there, and how I've helped other EPPs, is a visual of that QAS, and I do talk you a little bit through how to put that visual together. Just some things that CAEP, just by definition, they're up there. I think they're in the DC area or New York or something, and it's just something they can't go through and say, okay, you have to do it this way. And I'm here to tell you, please, you don't have to do it, but please do it this way. It will really make your life a whole lot easier. So, of course, standards 6 and 7, as I said, unless you're a freestanding EPP, all you have to do for standard 6 and 7 is obviously upload either your regional accreditation, in 6, and in 7, uploading your Title IV compliance. If you're a freestanding EPP, I do break out what you need to do in each of those standards in order to meet that requirement, because you do have to do those 2 extra pieces. Then there's resources, and I cannot, and I'll probably say this a million times before we leave today, just the importance of collaboration. And that's another part of this guide, is so that you and your EPP can collaborate on this and everybody knows what everybody else is working on. I was unfortunately, it was fortunate. We did well in our NCAID visit, but I'll never forget my first NCAID visit. And the department chair ran with it, and she was so excited about it, and we all didn't have a lot of input. Also, it was back in the early 2000s. Nobody really knew a whole lot about it, but I'll never forget one of the evaluators coming into my office, and he asked me a question I should have known, and I couldn't even, I was like making something up. That we really had no collaboration. We did fine on our visit, but it was obvious there was not a lot of collaboration. And that is something that, as you know, CAEP really looks for, is that your team is collaborating. You all understand the standards. You've talked about it. You have evidence. I was joking with Katie right before we started this, and she was telling me about a meeting she's going to in a couple of weeks, and I said, make sure you have that in your evidence file. Make sure it's documented. You have the time, the date, and who was there, because that all has to go in there. And collaboration is a huge piece of this, as you know. So what I'd like to do right now, and is have Katie talk about how Southern Adventist has taken the program and used it as, I can talk to you all day long about how the EPP should use this, but I think it's really important for you to hear how an EPP actually does use this. So Katie, I am going to turn this over to you and share the screen that you asked me to, and I'll be your Vanna White. So you just tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it.
Thanks so much, Sam. So I just want to start by saying, like, truly, like, everything Sam is saying is exactly how it is. So when I started this process, to tell you the truth, I really felt like I had just been tossed into the biggest bowl of mayonnaise. I was just sliding around. I had no idea what I was doing, how deep I was in, and I was in deep. And so, you know, it like I said, it started really at last TACTE conference. And I went to the CAEP job alike session. I was like, I need someone to help me. And by the way, I found amazing help here in this TACTE group. So I don't see any of the people specifically I need to thank on the screen, but for those of people who are my colleagues who are also supporting me, that's awesome. And I want to say that too, be sure to reach out when you're in this set to your people who are also going through this together. So I connected with Sam, and the first thing that she did for me literally was just to demystify the language of CAEP, because even little things like, it's like standard R1, like, what does the R stand for? I didn't know. And so I was just like, I see this R. Does the R matter? Like, do I need to say R in every time I reference something? And then, she explained, oh, no, R means revised, because there used to be a handbook. Now there's a workbook. I mean, just literally that's where I was starting, is it absolute zero. And so what I did as starting from absolute zero is I went through, first of all, and I just sat with myself, made some popcorn, and watched all the videos. And by the time I was done watching the videos, I felt a lot better. Like, I at least knew which end was up, and I knew where the sides of the pool were. And so that helped me just quite a bit. And I'm not quite there yet. This is something that's coming pretty much down the pike. But so then I would read through the text files that Sam provides in the course, because I really just needed to answer the question, what are these people asking me? Because with all the love that I can muster in my heart for CAEP, it is clear, at least to me, that the workbook was written by a committee. And so for me, the language in the workbook, well, I know what all those words mean, and I can identify and correctly label every single sentence, like syntax structure. By the time I get to the end of the sentence, I still don't know what they want. And this is where the course came in really helpful, because what Sam did is she just kind of rephrased it in like real world language. So it's like, no, this is what they want. Just answer these questions. And then she provides like the most practical, useful help, advice you can imagine. For example, one thing I don't remember if she told me this in one of our one-on-one sessions or if it's in the course, but she was like, hey, look, so what you need to do is you need to form a committee for every standard. So, and she told me who to put on the committee: a faculty member, an alum, a student, a stakeholder, whatever. And so I just did it right then. I didn't even know why I was doing it. She's like, form a committee. I'm like, yes, ma'am. I formed committees. So we appointed, a standard captain for each captain, kind of put them in charge of kind of shepherding that standard through. And now that we're pretty deep into the process and we have drafts, all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, those committees, I see why we needed them now, because now we can actually go to the committees and we can have them actually look through the evidence files we've created, actually read the narrative. And then these are going to be the people that we pull in to talk to CAEP, so that when the CAEP is on site and they want to meet with these constituent groups, we've got people who actually know what's going on. And that's just right off the bat, something super powerful. And the whole thing is kind of been like that. The other thing that I find super helpful is the suggestions for evidence, because CAEP basically just says, here, prove that you're meeting this standard and however you feel that it's appropriate to prove it. For me, I have a low tolerance for ambiguity. I don't like that. I want to be told, prepare a table that shows XYZ. That's much easier for me to do. And so that's kind of where the course came in, is it really provided that clarity, those concrete directions, like provide these kinds of evidences, provide these kinds of tables. And in some cases, like I didn't necessarily do, I would figure out like, oh, I get you. Here's what I've got. And then I'd ask Sam, does this fit in this hole? We'd have these conversations like, absolutely, yes, use that here. And I think that one of the big things also is do you just do this for me or is this for everybody? Like Sam meets with me literally every week.
I would do that. Yes, I would do that for everybody. Yes.
Okay.
I will say, if by request, I am always happy to meet with everyone. And yeah, Katie and I actually meet every week. So, it's good for me also because something I didn't tell you. Sorry to hijack your talk here, Katie. Something I didn't tell you earlier is that so the course is a living course. So if CAEP changes something, I'm going to change it in there. So like Katie and I were talking last week about, we were talking about hyperlinks. So like CAEP will change that on you, whether you're allowed to hyperlink, whether you're not allowed to hyperlink. So things like that, I will, and if they change standard, I'm going to go in and change the language. So just an FYI, if you have the course, that's another important component of meeting with you as a faculty, is that so I can, well, I mean, of course I would send you an email saying, hey, R2.3 changed, I went ahead and changed it in the course, but also if I'm talking to you, I can say, we can talk things like that out, how you would change something, should CAEP decide to make a change, because I am going to update the course like that. Sorry, Katie.
Oh, no, and that's super helpful. And so, yeah, our weekly meetings are super helpful for me in a lot of ways, like just to make sure, because I just like to have these check-ins, like as I'm creating all this, just so much content, I just need somebody to tell me, yes, this makes sense, or no, you need to adjust, you've forgotten, whatever. And so for me, that's super helpful. Also, it's great to have an accountability partner, somebody who kind of cares. So that's really great. So anyway, so back to the way I've been using the course. So I used it super heavily right in the beginning when I was kind of setting up the work. And so what's on the screen now is something that I created out of the course. So one of the things CAEP is really passionate about, like Sam was saying, is collaboration. They want to make sure that it's not just you, the Lone Ranger, out there writing this report and nobody else knows what's going on. Like they really want to make sure that the faculty are involved. And so what I've done based on the course is if I created a spreadsheet, whereas we create narratives, everybody on the team goes and reads the narrative, and then they're in column A. Those are the questions that came out of the course. So Sam kind of put the questions, the CAEP questions, in natural language. So I used that same natural language to make it easier for us to do our work, and just put that up there in column A. And then you can see, like, everybody on the team, there's a couple more people, but with this, read the narrative that I wrote and then think about just that question. Like, did we answer this question? Yes. There's Sam. Yeah. And Sam hasn't read it yet, just because I haven't sent it to her yet. I sent it through my team first.
I was gonna say, I'm behind.
No, I haven't sent this one to her yet. So, because what I want to do is I try to create the best draft I can, and then I send it to Sam, and then she reads it, and then she'll talk to me and be like, hey, add this. Have you thought about that? Here's another thing you can do. And so it's just been super, super helpful for me to keep going back to the course, just to keep my work structured. And then the other thing that I'll be doing is when I have a final, what I think is a final draft of one of the narratives, then I'm going to go back, and I'm not there yet. Like I said, I'm still in process. Once I get what I think is a final draft, I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewatch the videos for that standard. And I'm going to just make sure one final time, okay, do these things match? Did I actually create something that answers what it's supposed to answer? And then I'll go back through one more time that checklist just to make sure I haven't missed anything, I haven't left anything out. So it's a big, long process. So if you're not aware of that, you should start now. One thing, this is a little off topic of the course itself, but one thing that I've learned going through this process for ARP EPP is I feel like, I'll write to the first question there, and and then I move to the next question. And what do I find out? I find out we should have been formally documenting things that we do. Like, we do these things, it's happening, but we don't have necessarily all the formal documentation that we need. That's what Sam was talking about when she's like, hey, make sure you get the time, the date, who was there, document those meetings, because those meetings were happening, but without the minutes, you can't prove it. And so that's another place where Sam has been really helpful to me, is telling me exactly what kinds of documentation, like, okay, take the minutes. What goes in the minutes? What does CAEP care about? What does CAEP not care about? And she's helping me kind of develop also some, speaking of standard 5, some like data review schedules, so that everything that goes on a specific set schedule. I can show CAEP, yes, this EdTPA data gets reviewed by these people at these times on this schedule. And that's what they need to do. Is so for me, the course has really helped me just put the framework that I needed, the structure that I needed, so that I could actually go forward and make this report happen. And then the support that Sam has provided along the way has just been invaluable, because sometimes I feel like I have questions that feel like I ought to know, but I don't. Like, just back to the thing, what does R stand for? I came from the world of librarianship and K-12 education, and this is the first time I've read an entire accreditation workbook. And so just to have somebody who will demystify the language, explain the acronyms, and just to tell me what everything means, and just help keep me structured on task, it's just been really, really helpful. And to tell you the truth, I'm feeling very good about where our self-study report is at this moment. Now, ask me how I feel in May, and we'll talk then. But I feel like I told Tammy when I was asking her if we could join my accreditation assistant, I was like, Tammy, I just need somebody to give me some marching orders, because I know how to work, but I need to know what to do. And this is where the course has really provided that structure I need, and just kind of given me the, okay, here's what you can do. Like, she doesn't do the work for you. Like, it's our data, it's our job, but just to give us the structure and the support to make this thing happen. So we still got a lot of road ahead of us, but this is how we're using it. And so far, it's been super helpful.
Wow. Well, that was amazing, Katie. I promise y'all, I did not pay her to say that. I promise. But that was, I should have just let her do the session for me, because when Katie shows me documents like this, and I'm not going to click on the tab here, Katie, that says don't touch. So
you can touch. You can. It's okay.
I won't touch that. No, I already went through, and I already showed my own holes in this document. So, that something Katie said that was, well, everything you said was great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you talking about how you use the program, and I've said to Katie before, and I've said to other people before, this is what makes me so happy to see that the program is being used the way it was designed to be used. Like that document Katie showed you, that was not for me. That was her document. She did that by herself. And I thought, and I wanted her to show it to you because I thought, what a great way to show how you're collaborating with your faculty, I think that would be a great evidence file actually to put in CAEP and say, this is how our faculty work together. And you know what? Leave the holes in there. Everybody's human. I mean, that's, if it looked perfect, we wouldn't have to do this. That wouldn't be necessary. Another thing I have to say is something that Katie said. Of course, I can't do it for you. Well, actually, I probably could do it for you. It just costs a whole lot of money to do it. Am I putting myself as a consultant in a situation where, and I'll just be very honest with you, it's an $8,000 program. There's nothing's hidden there. Actually, if you go on the website and put your email in, I will actually send you a discount. But would I be only too thrilled to charge $30,000 as a consultant to help you with your CAEP work? Of course I would. I mean, who wouldn't, right? I did this because I know what it's like to pay $30,000 consultants. They're not going to do the work for you. That's not their job. And I've seen EPPs, one very recently, go on probation after hiring a consultant that costs that much money, because the truth is they're not only consulting for you, they're consulting for other people, and they don't know your EPP. They don't know your data. They don't know who you are. So this, of course, a fraction of the cost of what typical consulting fees are. But it is, Katie used a good word for, did you say, you didn't use guideline. I forgot the actual, I really should have written down what you just said, because
structure.
So, and that is the whole thing with CAEP. And you all know this. I think all of you do at TPA. You know the rule with Ed TPA, answer the question. You've got to, those kids have got to answer the questions. If you leave any part of that out, there goes your AFI, because you didn't answer the question. So, and I've seen it before. I've seen questions not being answered. And the volunteers who, God bless them, do the volunteer work for CAEP, they're looking at their own checklist. They know where the holes are. You can't just leave a piece out because you think someone's not going to actually see it. It's fortunately, but unfortunately not the way that works. So we do have a few more minutes. So I just wanted to open this up for any questions. And while we're doing that, I'll actually put back up on the screen Katie's and my contact information, if I can find it again.
While she's looking for that, I'll just jump in and say something that I've really appreciated working with Sam is just how supportive and how encouraging. Like, we've had some calls where I was like, Sam, I don't know if I'm able to do this. And she's like, no, yes, you can. Look, I'm here. We've got supports in place for you. You're going to be okay. Just how positive she always is, how she always says, like, you are going to make it. I mean, look at this. She even gave me an honorary doctorate because that's in the Lord's hands. But she's like, no, you're going to get it. It's going to work there.
Oh, I did not know that.
No, it's just you being like, no, you are going to make it. You are going to be able to do this. And these things are going to go forward. So I just publicly thank you. And I just want everybody to know, like, Sam is the real deal. Like, she actually cares about you and your EPP. Like, she's not just in it for the money. She's also in it to actually help make you better. And I can't believe I'm saying this at this moment in the process, but I can actually tell that going through this process is making our EPP better. And that's something that she's pointed out to me, and it's helped me see it, and it's improved my attitude. Like, I have gone from being like upside down in the bottom of the mayonnaise and in kind of a not happy mood about it, to actually on top of the mayonnaise, swimming towards the edge of the pool and being like, hey, I think this is actually on some level a good thing. And it was really Sam's support it's helped me to make that mental transition, which is important because it's also going to help us get to a good result at the end of the day with CAEP.
I've never heard this mayonnaise analogy before. I think that's great. I'm going to have to use that. That's that's awesome. And like I said, it is a living program, so it does change up. The subscription is for a year. I do discount it after the first year, obviously, because most people after the first year have already gone through the program. But as I always say to the EPPs I work with, just because CAEP is over doesn't mean it's really over. You have to start it all over again. So you keep collecting those 3 cycles of data. So are there any questions? I know we're about out of time, and I know you guys want to break before the 11 o'clock session. This is a very quiet group. Wait, I've got a chat. That was just from Tammy about mayonnaise is better than hot sauce. That's great. That's great. It was a pleasure seeing all of you. I actually, with the exception of David and Katie, I don't even think I had ever met all of you. So it was nice meeting everybody. I know I know Chris gives us the list of attendees. So I will email everybody and send you to the website if you'd like the discount code. That's great. I would love to work with you. Thank you so much, Katie, for being a co-presenter on this. I could not have done this one without you. So that's my, and Katie and I would say, I'm at all the west end of the state. She's all the way east. So we're probably about 7 hours apart from each other. So it's been very nice having her on here, helping me out with this. I mean, the truth is she's the one who's doing the work. I set it up, but the EPPs do the work, and they are definitely doing the work. So thank you all, and have a really great rest of the conference. Hopefully I get to meet you all either on Zoom or in person next year.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Sam. It was wonderful.
Thank you, David. See you soon.
Bye.